Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining New Jersey Wedding Podcast. We are your hosts, Andrea Pertel and Celia Milton, and we are both professional wedding officiants in the state of New Jersey. And thank you for joining us today. We always have great guests, so to help you plan your wedding in New Jersey. And today we have someone that I get to work with a lot because they're located very close to me. It's Shore Catering. And I've had the pleasure to work with them at Sandy Hook Chapel, at backyard weddings and such. So, first of all, how are you doing today, Celia?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing? Brian, how are you doing?
Very good. Getting ready for a busy summer.
I bet.
Right.
I bet. Oh, I bet. Oh my gosh. Yes, as you said, we're so happy to have Brian from Shore Catering, located in Brick, New Jersey, coincidentally, just like Andrea. Um, they those backyard weddings, those outside weddings, they sound like they're going to be so great, but there are more details than anybody could even imagine. And Brian's company can take care of all of those things, from their rentals to staff and of course fabulous food. The menus look really delicious, Brian, and the presentation looks really pretty too. So why don't you tell us about your business? How'd you start? What's going on down there?
Sure. So we do, like you mentioned, quite a few backyard, all off premise. So there's a lot that goes into it. Our company started in 1988.
Wow.
And Bill
Wow.
Sisselman founded it. And fortunately, I get to still work alongside the two of them for the most part. I got started with them in think about 2010, 2012. So it's been about a dozen years I've been on board with them. Just recently, back in January, I took over the company. So that's been quite a big
Great.
transition for
Yeah.
us. But operationally, not much has changed. I've been pretty much running the day-to-day operations, I would say, for about 5 or 6 years now.
Do you what I was going to ask you, you do all kinds of events, it looks like, on on your website, from weddings to smaller events and corporate things. Is that true?
Yeah, so they originally started as a deli, and people started asking, "Can you cater my birthday party or backyard barbecue?" And it's really grown from there. During COVID, we shut down our deli, and we focus primarily on off-premise events. So could be something small like a corporate breakfast or meeting, which we still do quite a bit of those, but our bread and butter are backyard events. There's probably about 100 different venues we go to.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, we run the gamut from, birthday parties, small little celebrations to full-scale weddings. And as you prefaced before, the amount of work, logistics, planning
Mhm.
that goes into what sounds like a simple idea, backyard wedding, is very involved.
Right.
It's
I've mentioned I've had the pleasure to I've worked I've officiated weddings at Sandy Hook Chapel,
Yeah.
where Shore Catering has been. I think you're doing one of your famous clam bakes there, and you do everything. It can be kind of all inclusive. You do the whole setup, correct? I mean, with the tents and the tables, chairs, dance floor, everything.
Yeah, so I mean, it's the challenging part, but the beautiful part of, I guess, working with our company is it can be as straightforward, or we can handle everything you could possibly want between rentals and dance floors. We coordinate vendors, the timing, the ceremony, and obviously we take care of all the food setup and service as well.
Right, right. You totally can transform a space. Or I have also had the pleasure to do right here in Brick, a couple of backyard weddings and baby blessings, where you come in. It was basically the food only again, but and
Mhm.
you have your servers and stuff, because that's so important. Instead of just dropping off the food, having the servers. I sometimes see the hosts just doing too much when they don't have the servers.
Sure. And one of the hardest things for us, especially for so many of our customers, it's many times the first time they've organized a catered event, especially for
Mhm.
younger couples. So they do have a little bit help from parents. Maybe they want to hire a planner, but it's hard to kind of get them to understand the vision and how it all comes together the day of. And when it
Mhm.
finally does, it's one of the most satisfying aspects of our job.
No, that you're absolutely right. And I think people you have this notion it's like a backyard wedding's going to be like it's going to be like the ones they see on the movies that everything just appears and you
Sure.
don't need any ice or any bathrooms and there's going to be parking for everybody. It's going to be just great.
Hopefully it's a little better than what was that old movie, Father of the Bride?
Oh my
Right,
gosh.
That's a classic. My wife loves that one. But uh, there's so many things, and I think now, as far as like everybody's budget and being realistic, I mean, many times a backyard wedding is going to turn into be just as
Yeah,
expensive as a venue, if depending on what kind of tent and rental packages you're looking at.
yeah.
But we also do a lot of, backyard weddings that are on a lower, smaller budget, based on what they can afford, and we make it work for them.
Hmm. I think I had a catering business for years and off premise also. And I used to tell my couples or my clients, the first thing you really need to do is figure out your room. If you can't put everybody inside as plan B, then or you maybe couldn't put them inside anyway, what you get your person that's going to measure your tent. And after you get over what that's going to cost, then we can move on with everything else.
Yeah, defining the space and the logistics are probably the first big thing to check off the box, and then you can get into all the smaller details as we start planning the day.
Yeah. What would you suggest for people as a time frame for thinking about, well, we just got engaged and we'd love to have it at home. We always thought that was going to happen. When should they call you?
So, I mean, that's an excellent question. We get the complete scope of that from
Yeah, I
6 weeks out, which is probably not realistic. I mean, we can do it for you, but the stress and the amount of decisions you're going to have to make in that
bet.
time is not conducive for you. But I would say a minimum of 12 months is probably ideal,
Yeah.
and especially depending on your date. So what we run into, a lot of people are interested in a June and September wedding. The big thing are with those backyard parties, the rentals are going to book out pretty quickly,
Yeah.
those hot dates. So if you wait too long, you're going to get stuck with, maybe some tents, different sizes, some of the things you would have wanted, they wouldn't be available.
Yeah, it's so true. And, I find that people just don't have any kind of concept of how much stuff they need when they're trying, they just don't know how much tent they need to cover how many people and that you really do basically always need a cook tent like most of the time. So I would
Correct.
think that for you, especially with like the kind of, the clam bakes and lobster things that you do and grilling and all, I mean, you can't really do that in somebody's home kitchen. Or
No, not at all. Pretty much every event we're bringing our own equipment. With the bigger weddings, we generally try not to cook anything on site,
yeah,
uh, because of the complications and logistics of that.
right.
But we always have, like you mentioned, our designated prep space, which 9 times out of 10, like you mentioned, we're going to have a cook tent. We're going to have our own prep tables and all of our equipment that we need to prepare, serve, and make sure the quality of the food's there for an off-premise wedding, which a lot of times I think people don't understand or overlook. They're like, oh, we'll just hire our favorite restaurant. They said they'll cater our wedding. And,
Yeah.
when it
Yeah,
comes to
don't do that.
they
No.
don't they don't know the first thing that's going to happen the day of on site.
It's so, my partner was my husband who had been a restaurant chef and it took a very long time before he realized that when we were in somebody's backyard, his spoon wasn't going to be hanging where his spoon was always hanging.
Yeah. Another big problem. I mean, it's blown up lately. The bartending, the little cocktail caravans, and everything
Oh
like that.
gosh.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
For a while, people, oh yeah, I have a bartender. They show up and they've never done a backyard or a park wedding where, 9 times out of 10 they're going to be, 100% prepared. They're going to be ready to go. And then when it comes to serving, they don't know the first thing that's going to happen the day of on site. So
Yeah.
there's no speed rack, there's no ice machine, there's no
Right.
shaker. And they show up and where are all these things? Well, you're the bartender, you normally bring it.
Right.
Oh, yes, I know that situation.
Bring
I
the
do.
food.
God. What are you seeing for like trends coming for like summer, spring and summer weddings? Anything that people are really requesting a lot that maybe is new or different for you?
So yeah, there's a few adjustments, but we try to stay in our lane, which is pretty wide,
Mm,
um, unfortunately for our planning and logistics. But these days, with the explosion of social media and TikTok and all these new trends, it's
yeah.
almost a full-time job to keep on top of those things.
Right.
Hmm.
But there's only so much we can implement. So some of the bigger things, like I just mentioned, are those bartending, caravans, that type of stuff. People want stations, take home. So it might be an ice cream truck, it might be, sliders, something like that at the end of the night for people to take on their way out. So if it's something like that that we can try to incorporate, we will. Otherwise, we recommend maybe bringing in a pizza truck if you want that for cocktail hour.
Mm,
And we also see, since we do travel to so many different venues, everybody has some cool new idea of how to use a different space, whether it's something like a brewery or a
hmm.
winery or, a loft, non-traditional spaces that aren't necessarily set up for a cocktail hour and a reception that we got to figure out how to make that happen.
And
Right.
make it all work. Yeah. It's interesting that, when you mentioned restaurants trying to do this, and some of them do it really, pretty successfully if they are
Sure.
used to it. But it's a real different skill set, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, so we're very fortunate. My staff's amazing.
They
But
are. Yeah.
we get pushback a lot of times with, the whether it's the gratuity or some of the charges, and my staff is worth it. The training, the expertise, almost everybody stays here long term. So
Mhm.
have that turnover. They
Oh, that's
take
great.
pride in their work and their service, and it shows. If you've been to some of our events, it really stands out. So that's a big part of what we do here.
Yeah,
I think
very true.
the staff can make it, they can make it or break it, really. And, we hear that when, we read reviews about, venues and restaurants and caterers. It's like if you have a good staff, that's golden. It really is, because the food can be absolutely pristine and gorgeous when it leaves your place. But if your staff is manhandling it, or just simply don't know what they're doing, the whole thing can come tumbling down. I think it's really important that people who are going this route understand that how many people they need to produce this thing. They do not. And they should listen to you, right?
Sure. And a lot of times it's simple things with the guests, it's knowledge, it's care, it's um, a question that might come up where, some places they just have an hourly rate worker. They don't really take the extra time to give that person the attention, or if they need something particular, they go get it. And that goes a long way to making sure your wedding day is successful. And
Mhm.
the biggest thing I find with our couples is that after the fact, we want to hear, oh my God, our guests raved about the food,
Mm-hmm.
because that really makes you feel good.
Yeah, and people who rave about your food tell other people about your food, and
Of
that's
course, that's great for us long term with referrals as well.
yeah.
Right.
What do you love about your job there? It's not really a job, it's more than a job, but what do you like about your whole business? What's your favorite part of it?
It's a good question. I kind of touched on it before. It's the diversity of what we do. There's, no two events are the same. My days are
Mm,
never the same. So it's always a new challenge, something interesting. The people we work with are great. Um, Patty and Bill, the founders of Shore Catering, really set a tone at whether it's staff or customers that we're really building a family. And, that's, I think, something that's transcended with me and our customers that makes this job very rewarding.
Yeah.
I think it's fun to see, you build relationships with families and, you might start with a wedding and then you have a christening and then you have birthday parties and, you
Right.
become part of the family.
Here you go.
Yeah,
Right.
it's amazing. Just in the short time I've been here, we've gone through that progression with a lot of different couples where, something as simple as the first birthday, maybe a few years later, and then it's the communion and whatnot. So,
Right.
um,
Graduation and all
see,
of that. Yeah. To be asked back is the greatest compliment, right?
yeah, it's always so nice to hear from them again, and oh, thank you, you guys are the best. It really touches you.
Right. Right. So we talked a little bit about, kind of advice or pitfalls or things to look for. Tell us your top advice for folks planning their wedding and with their caterer.
Sure. So, obviously things have really changed. The biggest pushback, I think, these days is really the price.
Mhm.
And I'm totally aware of it. I understand. I got married back in 2016, and being in the business, I had all these ideas and plans, and we can save money if we do it this way. And we ended up going to Clark's Landing. I'm sure you're familiar with that.
Yes.
Yes.
We
Andrea basically lives there.
Yeah, yeah, I'm there all the time. Yeah.
yeah, but same thing. Great venue, great family, great
Mm,
service. The food, so and it's pricey. I don't know what they go for now per head, but
Yeah.
for us, I thought we overspent. But looking back, I don't regret it because it was by far the best day, the best time,
mm,
and well worth the money. But I do understand, a lot of couples don't have the budget to afford a place like that, and my company and a lot of other companies can help them. So that's the big thing. How do we save some money? So I recommend looking at some alternate venues. We do a lot of work at smaller type venues, maybe under 100, under 125, which a lot of places you can't even get in the door anymore for under.
yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
So we have a couple local places, fire halls, another great place.
Mhm.
We have partnerships with some municipalities. So the Taylor Pavilion up in Belmar is another great place. We do a lot of weddings at. So they're more affordable, and then we try to meet people, um, whether it's one of our packages, which we have 4 wedding packages, but a lot of times we'll customize those to save some money on a budget if need be. Some other good tips I would recommend. My big thing always is make sure you have a DJ that is also an MC. A lot of times they just hire somebody to put together a playlist,
Mm,
and you can kind of tell the day of it. It makes a big difference because you need somebody to, read the room, pick up the energy sometimes,
Right.
and not everybody's situated to do that. Another big thing for me or for our company, we work with quite a few wedding planners.
Yes.
Um,
yeah.
And there are some that are well worth what they charge, but for the most part, I would recommend that you find a good officiant, find a good caterer, and find a good DJ, and you won't have to worry about a wedding planner. You can save the money there and put it, I think, to better use.
Okay. All right. Good. That's good advice. Yeah. And I love one of the things that I really love about Shore Catering is that your team, you do have partnerships with different venues, wedding packages like that. You have your website. In fact,
Mhm.
I'll tell our listeners that we will have a link on our social media sites to shorecatering.com, their website, their Instagram. The website is very informative. Not only does it, of course, show your menus and a great gallery of pictures, but even when you go into the venues, you can go on it and you can see how many people will fit there, and the details of each venue, and you do have your partnerships, and that's got to be a great way too to save money at budgeting.
Yeah, and I'd also like to point out, which we'll probably revamp our venues page a little bit. I think we have maybe 12 to 15 up there, and those are the ones we pretty go to, somewhat regularly, but
Mhm.
there's probably another 100 we can recommend across
Mhm.
the state of New Jersey. So if someone's looking for something specific or in a certain area, we might have access or knowledge of it. It just might not be listed on our website at the current time.
I think that's a good point too, because we've talked a lot about backyard and like off premise backyard outside kinds of things, but I think it's really important to, if you're in a venue that basically hands you the keys and says have a good time, that you have a caterer who's familiar with it and knows how to work there, knows the kind of ins and outs of the peculiarities of each place. Um, um,
Yeah, it can make a big difference, and especially the volume of venues we go to. We have a good feel for all of them. We know some of the ones that get abused, so to speak.
mhm.
And then some places, like we just did a wedding at the Patterson family barn this past weekend.
Oh yeah.
I don't know
Mm.
if you've been there. It's a fantastic little venue on the border of Howell and Freehold. And Sharon is in charge of running the site, and they take great care of all the couples and all the events there, but they keep everything pristine. They just are in the process of adding, I think, um, a bathroom and some plumbing and maybe a prep area for the caterers. So
Oh, that would be great because they're fairly new. Yeah.
yeah, they've been around a few years, but they're really growing and very popular. And like I said, it's one of our favorite places to go among, a long list of others. But, when you have somebody that's there, that's responsible, that makes sure that whoever comes in, the caterers, leave the place looking,
Yeah,
as well, if not better, as when they found it, it goes a long way.
that
Yeah.
makes a big difference. It
Yeah.
really does.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah, well, I want to tell everyone that again, the links will be on our website, and I'm sorry, our social media site. So you can go directly to shorecatering.com, see their fabulous website and their menus and their wedding packages. You also you have off-season discount prices for, those off-season months.
We do. So I probably should have had a list of our promotions, but off the top of my head, I know we do have um, a fireman special off-season weddings special. So I believe that's $4,000 to get in for 50 guests. So that's about $80 a person.
Oh, that's good.
And then we also have a special, I believe, on our plated package, which is a free upgrade to filet mignon for one of the entrees, which is about a $20 per person savings.
Nice.
There might be a couple more, but those should be posted on our website if anybody's looking for it under our specials. And if you have any questions, reach out to us. We'd be happy to run through them.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you so much, Bryan, for joining us today. We really
Sounds great.
appreciate it. And I
Yeah.
look forward to seeing you a lot in the 2024 wedding season in 2025.
Yeah, we have thankfully a very busy calendar. A
Yeah.
lot of dates are actually starting to be fully booked. As we discussed earlier, most of the weddings are 8 to 12 months out of it a minimum,
Mhm.
but now all those smaller graduation parties, backyard barbecues, and clam bake,
Yeah.
those are all coming in, so we're excited.
Yeah.
Good. Good for
It's
you. Well, I'm glad to talk to you, and I'm glad that I'm not catering anymore. So
Yeah, a lot of
people
energy.
don't
lot
people
of-
don't realize how much work it is. They really don't.
No, but thanks again for having us on. And hopefully we'll work a lot together in the future.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Bryan. Have a great day.
Thanks, Bryan.
Bye.
So that was really great to have Bryan from Shore Catering
Yeah.
join us today. I love Shore Catering. I have been an officiant for 14 years now and have had the pleasure to work with them on many, many occasions. And he's so right about their team. There are a lot of people that have been with them for a long time, which says a lot
It does.
about them,
It really
and
does.
35 years of experience. Not only is their food excellent, it's in the presentation, but the food is excellent. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been around so long.
Yeah.
I don't know, and you having a background in catering, Celia, you can tell me if this is common. One of the things that I love about Shore Catering is their team will help their couples coordinate day of logistics while
Yeah.
helping you find your perfect venue. They work with a lot of venues. They have a partnership with a lot of venues to coordinate rentals, and they will give you vendor referrals. They have a preferred vendors list, and I am honored to be their preferred officiant, and they are
Yeah.
on my preferred
Yeah.
vendors list as well. So is that
It's
normal for them to caterers to?
good caterers. There's a lot of different kinds of catering,
Mhm.
and like there's plenty of fantastic, delis and pizzerias and places like that that will drop off trays of food and salads and things. But, it's different than what he does. I'm sure he does that too. But, you start talking about feeding 100 people a sit-down dinner in a backyard, you're talking about a completely different animal.
Mhm.
And, there's a lot of coordination that has to happen with that. There's a lot of utensils and furniture and cook tents and grills and, a lot of different things to put into the mix. And, I think that's why a lot of these places, I know up by me, a lot of the like the women's clubs and, places that you will rent the room, you rent basically an empty room, you might get tables and chairs, but they all have preferred lists of caterers because that is not for the faint of heart. If you're, as I said during the thing, my husband was a restaurant chef in a, very high, upper upscale restaurant. But I mean, it was a real learning curve from the upscale restaurant to somebody's backyard, because you can't walk into the back room if you forgot the ketchup. Well, you got to you send somebody out for it, or you do something different. You have to really. There's a million details to every party.
Right, right. They yeah, they can transform a space. They really kind of do it all.
Mm,
You don't have to hire a separate tent person or you know,
that's great.
dance floor or whatever. If you go look at that field, that's the side
Yeah.
of Sandy Hook Chapel
Mhm.
before and after. I mean, they transform the space
Yeah.
and all that experience, that they are ready to deal with anything that could happen, you
It
know.
really is amazing, and outside, I mean, you've got rain, you've got bugs, you've got heat, you've got, all kinds of things that can happen, but it's, these people have learned clearly in all these years how to manage all of that. You have to be able to think on your feet, and an ordinary person's vision is not going to stretch that far. So, I mean, if I was going to pick a caterer, I would absolutely look for reviews. I would look for experience, for years of experience, but also years of experience, but also the openness to new things, which it sounded like with, he was talking about food trucks and cocktail caravans and, so,
Mhm.
being in line with the things that are going on now, but having the solid experience to, so the underpinnings are all there. And, as the couple, you don't, or the couple or the family, you're not worried about that stuff.
Right, right. So I highly recommend Shore Catering. Bryan was fabulous. They have a fabulous team. They are
Oh, the menu looks so good
I
too.
know
Oh,
I'm starving now.
oh God.
They have they are award-winning off-premise catering, 35 years of planning,
Mm.
off-premise weddings, full service, inclusive packages, customizable receptions or cocktail parties, a highly professional trained staff. They offer planning and coordination. They have experience with hundreds of venues across New Jersey, anything from big, elegant, events to backyard and little outdoor events, and they work with the top vendors in the industry, and they offer private tasting, which to me seems like the best part. Let's go
Yeah,
do a
really. Let's
private
go right
tasting.
now. I'm ready.
I've been looking at their website, and now I'm ready. I'm gonna have to go make myself a big charcuterie board or something, clam bake, get some lobsters ready, They yeah, so everyone check out Shore Catering, and thank you for joining us today. Be sure and hit that subscribe and like and follow button so
Yeah,
you
you don't want to
don't
miss a minute.
you don't want to miss it. If you are planning your wedding in New Jersey, this podcast is for you, and we appreciate you listening today. Thank you.
Yes, we do. Bye.
Planning. Bye. This podcast is brought to you by New Jersey wedding officiant Andrea Pertel, owner of For This Joyous Occasion Officiating Services.
And Celia Milton, owner of NJ Vows Now, also New Jersey wedding officiating services. We're up in North Jersey, and Andrea is down in Central and South Jersey. So together we cover the whole state, don't we?
Yes, yes.